Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about what is 3ds Max, its basic introduction, and what is it used for. So 3ds Max, obviously, as you know, as you're interested in it, it is a basic 3D software for 3D models, animations, and digital images. It's one of the most popular softwares in the computer graphics industry and is well known for its 3D tool set. It's it, it is mainly used by game developers, TV commercial studios, and architects. 3ds Max, obviously, as you can see over here, is owned by Autodesk, and it is the same company responsible, obviously, for your AutoCAD as well as Maya and all these various other softwares. Okay, 3ds Max is usually used for character development and animation. And when I say character development and animation, I mean in graphic designing, uh, in movie production and post production, and all of those various aspects, even to create like photorealistic buildings and other objects behind the scenes, where you see like in Game of Thrones and all these other various places where you can see like these fan fiction digital art, or Spider-Man as well. The entire setup was created in 3ds Max, and not, it wasn't shot in reality. So that is what 3ds Max does. And when it comes to modeling, you should know that 3ds Max has got unmatched speed and simplicity. Like, you will not get the amount of speed and the ease of using a 3D software, or you'll not get a better ease of using it in any other software. It shows you real time what you're doing and how you're doing it. So the software can handle several stages of animation and include pre-visualization, layouts, cameras, modeling, rigging, and all of this we don't get into because we'll be doing it from an architectural point of view. But a lot of this, like cameras and rigging and lighting and rendering, do come in handy for architects. It is one of the most widely used 3D packages in the world, as you know. That is why you want to opt for it. It has an efficient workflow and powerful modeling tools, and can save anyone a significant amount of time while modeling, because it's got these various modifiers which I'll get into in a minute. Before that, I just want to give you a basic introduction onto what 3ds Max is. It's used for popular TV commercials, as I've said before. And if you've seen the movie Avatar, the entire movie was based in 3ds Max. And it's really exciting to use it and generate cities and all of those various aspects in it. Okay, many industries use 3ds Max for generating graphics that are even mechanical and organic in nature. And when I say organic, I mean parametric, but not to a point where you add in a number or you add in a particular script and it's going to give it to you. What 3ds Max does is it'll allow you to create a plane into whatever you need to create. Like, you can create it into a organic waveform or whatever you are envisioning. It's extremely easy. Now, there are two ways to go about it. You could use a plugin, or you could do it yourself. Now, when doing it yourself is also extremely easy in 3ds Max, but it does take up a lot of your time, unless you want like an how do I explain this? Okay, unless you want a, a structure, say a roof, which is probably an organic or biomimicked form. It's easy and extremely fast to do that. However, if you want a particular line in a particular way and all of that, it takes a bit of time to actually set that up first, and then generate your entire roof, which naturally in any software you would have the same thing. In other softwares, you do have plugins. In 3ds Max as well, you do have plugins. We will get to the plugins at the later stages after you finish your basics, and that's that about it. So after modeling is completed, you can then use renderers. You can import renderers into 3ds Max and use them, like Corona, V-Ray. There's Mental Ray comes along with 3ds Max. It's an inbuilt one. So you can use those to generate materials, textures, and necessarily add lights to bring all of these things to life. You can keep adding details such as colors and gradients and textures, and this will lead to obviously higher quality renders. Okay, there are several options of renderers available, as I've mentioned, and I think that's about it. You can create smoke. Oh yeah. Okay, so you can create smoke curtains. You can create these. The best part about 3ds Max is you can create these particle simulators where you can show, snow falling and, rain falling, and you can also show, a curtain falling on a table and it draping over that table. All of that is there. However, it is not important in 3ds Max, so in architecture, I mean. So all of those animation set points, I if you want to know more, we can do an um advanced tutorial on it, or an advanced class on it. But for this class, we're just like, for these classes, this set of classes, we're just going to delve into the basics of 3ds Max, what exactly it does, and all of that. Okay. Who uses this software now? Of it, as I've said before, it's used in the pre-production industry, the gaming industry. It's used by architects. It's used by various people who want to simulate an environment in 3D. Okay, so I, let's just go ahead and show you the user interface of it. However, I just want to see if I've not covered any points which I need to tell you before we jump into the software. Okay, so once you open 3ds Max, you will this will pop up. Okay, and on the left you will see essential skill movies, so you can go through these movies as well and see how you can go through creating objects, editing objects, assigning materials, and setting up lights and animation. And these are extremely important. Even I went through them as well when I was starting up, because they helped me a lot in actually perfecting, or making my skills much better. And what's new and all of this, it's not generally necessary. If you're more passionate and enthusiastic about 3ds Max, and you would go through these things, then you could create a new scene, open a file, create all of this. You don't need to start with creating a new empty scene. You just click on close, and you will come up to this interface of 3ds Max. Over here you can place various tools as you can in other softwares, and you have these bunch of tools over here and here. So over in 3ds Max, you can what you can do is you can drag this thing left and right, because what happens is when you create a model here. Okay, let's click Alt W for bringing up this thing in, enlarging it. So you can drag and pull this, because a lot of your modifier editing properties pop up here, and it's very difficult to keep going back and forth between them. So 3ds Max allows you to drag this and just keep all of your tools directly here. Okay, so I usually to keep it at two, because it's extremely convenient. Usually, you usually only just need these two. Very rarely you go to the third dialog box. So another thing you have over here is you can link your models. So if you have two models on your screen, you can link them, you can unlink them, you can bind it to a particular plane. Okay, and you have various aspects you can keep jumping through while you model. So if you have a huge model, you can jump through all of this and then create a selection. You can select it by name if you want. So once you start creating objects, and let's just go ahead and create like a bunch of objects. Okay, let's just create a cone as well. Okay, and this is where you get your objects. You have these objects, you have other these are standard objects, you have compound objects, you have primitive objects. There's a bunch of objects which we will get into when you start the class. Okay, So once you create these objects, what you can do is you can rename them over here. Okay, and what will happen later is you can go here and all your objects will pop up here, and then you can just go and select them as per your liking, and then when you go here it'll select this, and you can play around with it. Then you can select your objects through squares selections and circular selections and all of those various aspects. Okay, you can do a you know customized selection, and customized selection does come handy a lot of times through in terms of architecture, because a bunch of times you want to use a bunch of times you want to select just a particular part, and then something else tries to overlap, so you use some that's the time you kind of go and you use the selection tool, the customized selection tool, and then you kind of make a selection around it and then you use it. um yeah, that's about it. Then you could use also the spray tool, although it doesn't come in handy much, because it makes no sense to actually use it. But then you could always find use of it yourself and see where you can take it. Then you have window crossing, window non-crossing, scaling, moving, scaling, rotating, moving. Okay, these are the three very important tools in 3ds Max. These three, that's selecting and rotating, and scaling. So you have a bunch of shortcuts for it, which I'll show you in the class. Okay, then you can use the select and manipulate. That is, once you use modifiers you can do this. Snapping is important in 3ds Max, and you have various types of snapping in this thing, okay, over here. And then you have snapping in angles, which also comes in handy. Percentage snapping, snipper snapping, and all of this is very, very exciting to use. You have mirroring, you have aligning, layer properties, managing layers. If you want to freeze, like in Autodesk, how you want to freeze a layer, you want to hide a layer, the radiosity and all of those. And then you have the curve editor just comes in handy when you're creating animation. So we're not going to delve into this during our classes, but it is fun to know it and understand it. This is a plugin which I've downloaded. It's called Railclone. We will get into it in the really later stages, because it is a plugin which generates a lot of exciting things like windows, floorings, and all of that. We will get into it in the class, however it's just going to be like really, really late. And then you have your renderer over here. You will see your different types of renderers over here, assigning renderers, and you'll see here the renderers which come with the software, and then the rendering environments, advanced lighting, where you can add all your various lightings. Then you have a basic ribbon, your menu ribbon, where you have various objects where you can change what you want, where you want it. You can group, use views, pretty much do anything you want. And this is what I was talking about. You can create particle grids, create particles of snow, spray, blizzard, and it's super fun to play around with these. We don't get into it, however, it is a lot of fun. You have these compound objects which are extremely important for architects, which is morph, scatter, conform, connect, blob, Boolean terrain, and all of these. So out of these, you would mostly be using Boolean and pro Boolean, because it's just generally addition, subtraction of objects. Modifiers are another important thing in 3ds Max. So if you select this and you usually are on this, you'll go here and you will understand that you have a whole bunch of modifiers here, and this just helps you use the shape a bit better. So you could create a push pull, you can make it into a different object altogether, and all of that, those various aspects through this modifier list. Once you go back here, you'll understand that you have shapes as well, and then you can create various shapes over here. Okay, and yeah, that's how you use it. Here you have your camera setup, your targets, your This is where you get your lights. Okay, and that is how you use this. You would customize your user face if you want. Okay, got stuck. Okay, you could customize your interface, add things over here. And it's pretty complicated to get into this. You could add your shortcuts over here as well. It's actually really complicated to get into this because once you need to understand what you're working with and which tools are important to you, and only then you can assign only then you can assign what do you call it, shortcuts to your tools. And then even then you have to be really particular because sometimes you have move and then you have move and select, which are two different tools, and then if you add the shortcut to move and select, it's just going to bungle up your entire model. Okay, so then you go to scripts. Now we don't I usually don't run with scripts. What I do is I import them and I will give them to you, the free scripts which I have downloaded. Okay, which generate brick walls and brick flooring, sorry, flooring and tiling and pebbling and all of those various aspects. I'll give you those scripts, and I'll make you understand how exactly do you use them. Okay, then you have the help tool, and this is a place where I used to go a lot back, way back when YouTube did not exist. This is where I would go and learn all my tutorials and everything, and these come really really handy. Okay, these tutorials over here, so you should probably go and get into it and just take a look around and see what exactly you can understand off of it. The next thing we want to do is yeah, here's mental ray. Okay, and the best part about 3ds max is you can go around and just play around with something you want and then just go back and work with it. So if I wanted to create like a, say, I'm sorry, uh, if I wanted to create a material, I would just go here, go to standard, and go to architectural, and then just use probably a stone. Okay, and just add it here. And then I know I don't want it anymore. I'm just gonna press Control Z, or if I want it back, I'll press Control Y. So these are various shortcuts, which you need to understand. You can toggle window by Alt W, and then you can have the top, front, left frames, and you can go into orthographic view if you want to. Although we don't use orthographic view a lot in 3ds Max because it's a little too much to like handle. We do use the top, bottom, left, and all of these others. You can save the active perspective view the way you want to. You can create it in realistic, shaded, consistent, as in other 3D modeling softwares. You can create it in hidden line, and hidden line is a very important way to go about it because when you're working with really heavy modeling, what happens is you can the hidden line allows you to move faster across the screen. Okay, so I'll just go back into realistic, press Alt W, and you can see your thing again. Okay, so that is basically the basics of 3ds max, and I hope you guys like understand what I'm trying to say about it. And yeah, that's about it.